Hey, what's up boys and girls? Today we'll be drawing Mega Rayquaza from Pokemon. I'll be going over step by step from start to finish how to complete this drawing, beginning with pencil drawing, tracing over with marker, putting on the color, and then trace again with marker. Okay? So feel free to draw along and pause the video whenever you like to catch up with me. Let's take a look at the materials we'll need for this drawing. You're going to need a pencil, an eraser, a thicker black marker for the thicker outline, a thinner black marker for the thinner outline inside, and some color pencil. The color we have here, I have a black and a gray for these black tattoos here, areas on his body, and I have a light gray, a light green, and a regular green for the highlight green and the mid-tone green on Rayquaza. For the shadow on Rayquaza, on the green parts, I'm going to use the black and just lay the black on top of the darker green. Okay? I have a red for the eye and the mouth, the tongue, and I have a yellow and the orange for the whiskers and all these shining parts on Rayquaza. Alright, that's all you need. Let's get started. To start, let's take a look at a reference drawing of Mega Rayquaza. Okay, so it's gonna look very daunting at first. You're looking at this crazy design with a lot of details, but if you really break it down to the basic simple shapes and forms, you can start to see what this is made out of. So when I look at this drawing right here, I look, the main shape is big S curve right here that makes up the entire shape of Rayquaza. So to start with a little thumbnail right here, I would just start studying this curve and see how this curve is made out of. So this is the shape of the curve that I see from the bigger version of the reference drawing. See? Now by drawing this curve, now I have kind of like a line of action for the entire character. And now all I have to do is make that curve thicker. Okay? After making that curve bigger, thicker, now we can look at like the other elements right here. This is really not much. So we have these two fins right here, kind of in like a triangular shape, and then we have these two fins right here. And then we have these fins right here. And you can kind of look at the curve that you've drawn and kind of locate where they are on this curve. And then these fins right here. Okay? And then I can draw this big curve into sections. Okay? And then the fins on the head. So there's a big one here, a big one there. And right beside the mouth. Two small ones right here. You can locate the arms. The arms are right here. Okay, the other arm is blocked by his a fin on his face. Okay, and then we have these these swirly curves that comes out from the side. Okay, and this is really what makes up the overall design of Rayquaza. And then based on these shapes that you have already established, make sure that they're exactly where you need them. Now you can draw in more details, like these tattoos, these lighting details, okay, all that will just come in, it will just fall in place, okay? So, let's take a look at the lighting now. Now the lighting for this Rayquaza drawing is coming from kind of like this direction almost, okay? And then you take a look at the shadow, see the shadow right here is on the top, that means we have lighting coming from down here, hitting top, okay? Also here, you see highlight, mid-tone, and then shadow. And right here, everything here is all dark, okay? So our lighting is coming from the bottom left to the top right. Okay, that's why you see all these shadow on this side right here, and the shadow here. Now, because of these shiny whiskers that he has, these whiskers are also going to emit light. So that's why this area is lighter, that area is lighter. Okay, so we got some very interesting mid-tone, highlight, and shadow here on Rayquaza. Okay, all right. So now let's just start with the basic shape and form first, shall we? All right. Okay, so you can see now that I have all the basic shapes and form down, I started with the main curve, the main S curve, and then I break up into the sections according to the reference drawing that I have. And then I added all the fins, the locations of the fins, and the arm, including the fins and on the face, on the head, sides of the face, okay? And then I added like some of the key locations of some of his details, for example, like these rings on his whiskers. Okay, so now I have a basic shape and form in place. This is like the most important stage because if you don't have all the things in the right place and you start going to details, you're gonna keep erasing over and over again. You're gonna realize, wait, my drawing doesn't look like a reference. And at this stage, we're trying to learn from that reference, trying to learn the anatomy, the structure, the composition from a reference, and then eventually you'll be able to start making up your own Mega Rayquazas. But right now, you're learning from a reference. You want to study its anatomy, structure, composition, and whatnot. Okay, so this is super important. Now that I have a basic shape and form in place where I wanted it, and then it looks like very closely to my reference. Now I can start going in there, grab my reference again, and start on all the details. Okay, so see how lightly I draw right now? It's all because I'm going to draw over it again with all the details and make all the lines more definitive. So the more definitive lines are going to become darker, okay? So the less definitive lines are slowly going to feel like they're fading away, okay? So that's what you want. And another thing you also realize when I draw, a lot of my line work, like it's not like one continuous long line. They're like little broken up lines every here and there, here and there, here and there. The reason why is because in the beginning stage, nothing is for sure. You're just experimenting, you're drawing, and you're trying to find the right lines yourself, okay? So if you're just trying to like be attached to like one line, okay? Just make sure you have to get that one line correct. It's very, very hard to do that. Instead, I do many little broken lines, okay? So a lot of the areas are kind of blurry, but from all those broken lines, I kind of see like the main lines I want, and I go over with it, and slowly that definitive line will emerge from all the blurry lines, okay? So I'm gonna go over another layer with pencil. You're gonna see it darker, and you're gonna see the details come out. You're gonna see what I'm talking about, okay? Okay, so as you can see now, I have all the details on Mega Rayquaza, and then you see when I was drawing, I didn't have to worry about like, if I have to erase a major portion because it wasn't in the right place, it doesn't look right. And it's all because in the beginning, I had the general shape and form nailed in exactly where I wanted. That is why I'm able to just dial in and just start working on the details, from one part and scan through the whole thing and adding all those details based on my reference. It's super important. And now you can see that as I work on the details, a lot of the definitive lines did, just emerge from all those blurry lines. And now you have like a more refined drawing. So now we can grab our marker and start tracing our pencil line work, so we can get a very clean line work. Now, usually I would use a thicker marker. It's for more smaller, simpler design, for example, like Pikachu or Eevee. But since Rayquaza has so much detail, I'm going to grab a thinner marker. Now this is a Sharpie, it's just something I found lying around the house, but you're going to need a finer point for all those details, or else if you use a thick marker, all those details will just be buried, okay? So let's start tracing, okay? I'm going to grab a couple more pieces of paper underneath this, because I know this Sharpie is a little bit more, it doesn't dry as fast, so I know it's gonna bleed through and onto my table. So I'm going to just grab a couple more pieces of paper underneath it, so when I trace, it's not going to bleed on my table, okay? Okay, so here now we have a very cleaned up marker inked line work for Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza. So next is coloring. So a couple things I'm gonna go over when I was drawing. You'll notice that when I was tracing over my pencil line work, again, I break up many lines, like one long curve into like smaller lines connecting it. Again, you're not trying to make a one perfect line with one stroke. That's extremely hard and you're gonna make a mistake and there's no going back. Okay, so don't worry about that. You can connect your line work. Okay, like a couple of smaller lines to make up a long continuous line. Okay, so that is my tip for you. So next, let's go into coloring. Oh yeah, when cleaning up your pencil drawing after you trace, hold down the paper with one hand and then erase with the other, okay? And then work on the other area and then work on the other area. Because if not, if you're just erasing like this, you're trying to erase all those pencil marks, you're gonna risk wrinkling up all the paper, your artwork, and you don't want that to happen. So make sure you hold down the area you're erasing and then erase, okay? Another thing is like, if your marker doesn't dry as fast, don't just erase right after you trace it, like let it sit for a couple minutes and then erase, so you won't risk smearing your line work, okay? So it's gonna be really bad if you're cleaning up your pencil, you're really happy with your ink, and then you smear the ink all over your paper, okay? That's gonna be very hard to fix. All right, so let's go over the colors. Look at the reference drawing right here. So generally in a drawing, we have you'll highlight your midtone, your shadow. Okay, we have some form shadow, we have some cast shadow. So if we look at Mega Rayquaza right here, okay, you'll see all these dark areas are shadow. And then the lighter area, like the light green right here, okay, those are highlights. Okay, and then we have the midtone. Okay, so most of the time, like now for Rayquaza, we have a lot of shadow because we have some very dramatic lighting going on, you know, because he probably has like some cityscape under him. That's why he has like a light source coming from down up, and he has all these shiny whiskers that lights up his body. So lighting can be a little bit like complex on Rayquaza. It doesn't make a lot of times if you don't know what's going on, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's okay. Okay. We're gonna look at our reference and see like where the highlights, where the shadows are, and lay them in. So what I like to do generally, start coloring from light to dark. Okay, so I'll usually like leave out the highlights and I'll color in the midtone. After I color in the midtone, I'll lay down the shadow on top of the midtone. Okay, so now after the drawing's done, then I'll decide whether or not I want to lay down the color for the highlight. Because sometimes leaving it white works perfectly. Okay, so let's get to it. And usually I will do like, I'll use crayon, because crayon's going to lay down large areas of color very fast. But for this drawing, I'm going to use color pencil, because it's got a lot of tiny little details here and there. And if I have a crayon, it's actually going to work against my favor, because crayon is very good for coloring large areas. But Mega Rayquaza, I just have too much little details here and there. It's going to be better for me to use a color pencil, even though it's going to be slower for large areas. But for tiny little details, I can lay them really quick. Okay, so you're going to see me draw the outlines of where about the highlights are, so I know where to leave white. And then you're going to see me coloring all the midtones. And then you're going to see me coloring all the shadows. And then you're going to see me decide whether or not to put in a lighter color for those highlight areas. Okay? So for these whiskers, the shiny whiskers, I will consider all the darker, like reddish orange, to be like the shadow. Okay? And then like these light yellowish color to be like the midtone and highlights. Okay? So let's begin. Okay, so we have all the midtones laid in. Now you see that I also put in a light layer of highlights and where they need it already. Okay, at this stage, it's gonna feel like it's really flat because you have no shadow to punch out everything. Okay, but once I put the shadow in there, you're gonna see like very clearly things starts to come out. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab the colors for the shadow and then start drawing in where they needs to be, like the kind of like the borderline where they needs to be, and then just start laying the shadow. You're gonna start seeing Mega Rayquaza start coming off the page. Okay. Okay, so as you can see now, after I put in the shadow, Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza now looks a lot more three-dimensional. Okay, so the last step that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black marker again and just punch out some of the profile outlines, because there's so much going on with Mega Rayquaza, you know, with details here and there. There's an arm, there's whiskers everywhere. Some of the elements are in the front, for example, the head, you know, the fins. Okay, this whisker right here. Some of the elements are in the back, in the shadow, like the tail in the back. So by punching out the profile lines, I'll be able to like accentuate, you know, those aspects like what's in the front, what's in the back, and just pop out the general character off the page. Okay, so let's start. Okay, and that's it. Here we have Mega Rayquaza from Pokemon. Hope you guys enjoyed this session of drawing. Let me know in the comments below what we should draw next time. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.